Morning guys, Steve here. So I had a request after one of my recent FSX videos to just have a quick run through some of my settings and the add-ons that I'm using. I think Aviation and Gaming was the person that actually asked for it, so this is what we're going to have a look through this morning. The software that I use to capture is OBS Studio. This is not the most recent version. I am sticking on 0.14.1 in 64-bit. Have had newer versions and have downgraded again because I just couldn't get the quality for some reason. I don't know what has changed, but after a lot of time messing around trying to find the right settings, I've just gone back to this version. It works for me. It gives me the settings that I want and gives me the quality that I'm looking for. So that's what I'm using here. Only issue I do sometimes have in terms of the volume, I do have to turn down the game audio and increase the mic volume a little bit to make sure that I'm heard all the way through the video. What I was having before on some of the early videos, you'll notice that the in-flight volume was louder than I was. So I've turned that down a bit and increased the microphone level to combat that, and that seems to work reasonably well. In terms of FSX itself, FSX Steam is what I use. Really not a massive amount in here. Graphics are set to high. The aircraft is medium high. I'm using a GeForce GTX 970 4GB onboard RAM, running at 1920 by 1080 32-bit color. Trilinear filtering with anti-aliasing on. Haven't got the DirectX 10 fixer. Now with the fixer, apparently this setting here does make an improvement. I don't have that software, so I'm leaving that off. But I have got lens flare and the advanced animations on. Light bloom is nice, but does come at a cost in terms of frame rate. So again, I've left that turned off. Aircraft medium high, 3D cockpit obviously these days. High res 3D cockpits. And the plane itself casts shadows and landing lights illuminate the ground. But the aircraft doesn't cast shadows on itself. That's the scenery settings. Again, they're in custom because I've been playing around. And again, this is what works pretty well for me. Weather. I use, well, we'll come across the software that I use for weather management in a few minutes, but they're the settings that I use. Whether or not I need these based on the software I'm using, I don't honestly know. Again, it seems to work quite well for me, so I've left it. Traffic is off. All off. Can't be doing with FSX's plane being parked on top of you at the gate, so the whole lot's gone. If I have any traffic, it'll be either VATSIM or IVAO that I use. In terms of the actual plane or planes that I use, only really two in FSX. It does take a while because I've got the whole IVAO MTL library set up. The two I have, as you will know, the Aerosoft A320 and the fantastic 737 NGX from PMDG. They're the only two planes that I've purchased. Really not bothered by Dreamliners, A380s or anything longer haul because I don't do long haul flights. Most of my flights are maximum of 2 hours, easily within the range of a 320 and a 737. So that's the basic reason why they're the only planes you'll see me flying with. So if we go from FSX, then the first thing we'll do is we'll look at textures, Rex 4 Texture Direct and Soft Clouds. For me, absolutely awesome bit of software. Really get fantastic visuals with Rex 4. Clouds look awesome, especially at night or early sunset do find it absolutely is incredible. In terms of my settings here, basically just path to FSX Steam. Active Sky next I use, so it's the path to that. And then basically I go for 2048. Still HD. It doesn't take quite such a hit, 'cause I'm only running an i5 3550 at 3.3. So it's not massively powerful, but 2048 on the clouds is good enough for me. I'm happy with it. Obviously DirectX 9 all over. That gives me results. I'm happy with it. And all I basically do, I don't bother setting up my own theme. I just use weather. So literally I will load, I don't know, say Gatwick. There's the TAF, there's the meta, that's what's going on. Click on generate. Do you want to install it? There you go, it's been done. I would normally hit OK, but as I've got FSX open, I'm not going to do it this time. Once you click OK here, basically all that happens is Rex closes down, Active Sky next opens, and FSX also opens, which is what's happened this morning. I've already done that. But I don't really play. I have had a play in here, but to be honest with you, I just go live off the weather and let it set all the bits and pieces according to the weather for the route. So Active Sky next, singly probably one of the best add-ons I've ever bought for FSX. I had Active Sky 12 before, which was good. This though just takes it to a whole different level. Obviously, you get the weather radar in both the Airbus and the 737. But in terms of the actual effects of the weather, is just different league compared to 2012. Haven't really bothered looking at 2016 and the Cloud Architects. I don't at this stage think I'm going to bother. Once I think Dovetail Games have released their flight sim later this year, we'll see how that goes. Whether I'm going to stick with FSX. I have also got X-Plane 10. That's in a bit of a transition with at the moment because I'm just not feeling there's a great deal of quality. There's a lot of products, there's a lot of add-ons, a lot of free scenery, which is very good in some cases, but there's also a lot of problems with a lot of these products because they're free, or even in some cases with developers. It takes such a long time to get things fixed that I don't know if I can be bothered. So I'm flying predominantly FSX at the moment. Will that be the same again later this year and into next year? Who knows? If it is, then obviously I will be looking at getting some different bits and pieces added on, starting with some Orbex, Land Class and Global. We'll just change the way the world looks. But Active Sky Next is awesome again. I have all the flight plans all done from SimBrief. They're all saved down, so I can literally just load. That's the flight plan from flighted yesterday in Canada, Edmonton into Vancouver. So all I do is take the alternate from SimBrief, whack that in there, let it download that weather for me, and then I've got weather sorted for the whole of that flight. I also use Ablesoft EFB. Now this is purely the data provider, so it just basically tells me that it's FSX Steam that's the simulator in use. I'm using AirAC 1608 from Navigraph, and it just basically tells me that the machine is ready and is listening out for the display unit. Now the display unit is on a second PC. Okay guys, here we are then. This is the EFB display unit on the second machine. Pretty simple, straightforward interface. Along the top here is where you're setting up or clearing and checking your route information. Save it, activate it. Actual detail of the route here. When you've got a route selected here, this will show you the waypoints, frequencies, courses, distances, stuff like that. And down the left here is basically just some of the system settings and different functions for information on airports and the flight progress that you can do. So the first stage and the first thing to do is basically hit the select button. You can, if you have a previously used route within EFB, you can load those from here. I don't tend to save them. I just use the routes I generate from SimBrief when I do my planning. You can load FS Commander as well, and you can also load P3D if that's the sim you're using. But for me, obviously it's FSX, and here's the route we did yesterday in Canada from Edmonton to Vancouver. So basically along here now, obviously you can see the detail where you're going from, where you're going to. That's the basic route as displayed down here. Cruising at 34,000 IFR. Route distance is 439 nautical miles. In terms of the planes, as I said earlier, there's only two I use, so these are the only two that show here. The A320 from Aerosoft and the 737 NGX. And if you are online, then obviously you can display that network's traffic. At the moment, this is showing you VATSIM information. So in Canada at the moment, Saskatoon International has got approach and ATIS information, so it's Charlie Yankee X-Ray Echo. But this gives you the whole world basically with VATSIM, who's online, where they are, and of course the frequencies, the call signs, stuff like that. Same thing with IVAO, just simply stop VATSIM, start IVAO, and again that's what you have going on at the moment on IVAO. So you want to start putting in your SID and your star information. Now out of Edmonton yesterday we took runway 20 and there isn't a SID for that. We did a direct leg into Tavpo. Arrival, I'm pretty certain 26 left was the airport, and I think it was a Canuck 4 arrival. You can see that now adds those legs into here for you. As for the approach itself, again it's obviously 26 left. You can choose your approach if it's going to be an ILS, an NDB or an RNAV approach. We flew the ILS yesterday, and again you'll notice here the transition we have as part of the star, the last fix is saved, and that is there's the transition onto the actual approach itself. And there you go, from saved you're onto the approach into Vancouver. So you hit done there and then you activate, and this is the graphical view you have of Edmonton International. So there's two runways that they have in use, runway 12 and 30 with the relevant headings as well, and then you've got 02 and of course 20 right at the top here is where we took off from yesterday. Elevation information at the top here along with transition detail here. On the departure site sector itself, again it shows you here any ATC, so if we had Edmonton was being covered, it would show the frequency here, and although FSX at the moment isn't actually running, if it was you can just right mouse click and switch frequency from within EFB and that will work for you. Pink line is the route itself that you're following. So there is Vancouver, and if we slide over, no, it's not quite in view, but ultimately speaking there's Tavpo, so we're nearly there now, but there you go, there's Edmonton. Pink line is your route all the way through. Any traffic from either IVAO or from VATSIM, whichever network you've selected during the setup of the route, that will appear on here as well for you, and the map will change depending on the route you get to. So once you leave departure you go to en route. Again zoomed in, I'm showing more information here because I've got the VOR, DME, NDBs on. I have the range rings and also have the compass. So if there is any need to change or slightly deviate from the plan, you can see what heading you're going on to on the map, as well as of course in FSX. The arrivals page, very similar to the departure page, but of course showing the opposite direction. So again, you have the elevation this time for Vancouver. Again, there's no ATC online within IVAO, so we're on Unicom. You are on 26 left, so Canuck 4 for 26 left arrival. Transition information over here. And again, you'll notice on here now, there's booth. And then we start the actual star coming through down to stave 9,200, but no lower. And a maximum speed there of 230 knots at stave. And then you can see the different altitudes as you work your way down. You can turn some of these bits and pieces off. So turn the airports off, for example. There you go, it's a little bit clearer now. And then finally, as you come down to saved, into the approach page. Again, so you're flying heading at 262 until you get to Noxob, no lower than 3,000 feet. That's at 9.4 DME, and that's the initial fix there. 262, continue down until you get to 4.3 DME. That's your final approach fix at 1,400 feet. That is your intercept for the glide slope. If you have to go around or you miss the approach, basically you will turn left to a heading of 233, where you will intercept the outbound 283 radial from Georgia, and then you will join the hold at Georgia at 3,000 feet at a maximum speed of 250. So you have the visual representation here. You also have the textual information along this little banner along the top here as well. You have your localizer frequency, course, the final approach fix, altitude and height, decision altitude and height, and the TDZE and length information over here as well. So it gives you an awful lot of information. It's a very, very good program. I do use this on every single flight in FSX. So I hope you, if you haven't used it before, it may be worth having a look at this. When it isn't free, you have to buy it, but it does run on the same PC as your sim, or as I've got it here, on a secondary machine across a network, quite easily using Sim Connect. I also have a bit of software called Linda, which enables me to customize my hardware. Now I have SciTech Pro Flight yoke and rudder pedals, throttle quadrant and switch panel. Linda enables me to configure per plane if I wish. So if I look, for example, at the Aerosoft Airbus, if I go to settings, I think it's in here. No, it's in here, sorry. So I have things all set up here. So individual particular buttons will apply these particular settings. So that does make life quite a bit easier. There's really not a huge amount, to be quite honest with you, to say, other than it is. In fact, that's the. There we go. That's the main one. That's the actual switch panel. So yeah, so you can see I've got batteries on, the APU on, all avionics, fuel pumps, anti-ice engine, probe. So it just is customizable, so I can control things without having to let FSX do it all manually, or have to keep moving across the screen to find the taxi light switch. I've got my hardware right in front of my face, and it just keeps things a bit more realistic for me. So hope you found it a little bit useful in some way. If you've got anything else that you want to know, drop a question in the comments. Don't forget to hit the like button and the subscribe. Until the next time, I'll see you soon.